Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Capital Debate Awards ceremony. We're going to be doing awards followed by some demonstrations of what we've been doing this week. So here's the class. We got a funny photo for this one. This was a good one. Note Henry's hat, and I hope that those are appropriate hand gestures, Sophia. I don't know what the one on the right is, though.
See the rock on symbol.
Is that just rock on? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another one. I like this one too. We took a good one with our tongues out, but I messed it up. I took the picture wrong, so I can't use it. So first, let's jump into those award ceremonies. And Kevin, please, jump in here if you want to say something about the students too. But the first one is going to go to Eliza, who did a fantastic job. I had the great pleasure of working with her for 2 weeks in a row. Real smart arguments, real smart speeches. And we've been working with her on giving more passionate speeches, using more emotion while she talks. And we've seen a lot of improvement from that. So I'm excited that you're going to get to see that. Up next is Anushka. Anushka did some really great research. I believe she won some of our pre-gate before morning tournaments. We would do things like Olympic competitions where we'd try and go without saying as long as possible or as long as possible. Anushka did really well in those activities. So I saw a lot of great improvement in both speaking and in research from Anushka, and that's going to show in her speech. Up next is someone else I got the pleasure of working with for 2 weeks, and that's going to be Elise. I am so excited to say that Elise is rocking an amazing headphone system this time. It lights up and everything. Last week, she was using headphones that were probably as old as she was, and it was really hard to hear. But this week, now that her audio is sounding good, she's making really great speeches, writing really good arguments, participating a lot. It's been really great to see her both break out of her shell technologically and in speech given. Up next is Henry, another returner for me, someone I got to work with for 2 weeks in a row. Henry has some really great arguments, tries to go for those really big impacts, really likes to talk about tyranny and the end of society and communism and all that. And that's not just in a speech throughout the class. He always wants to engage in really big ideas and discuss them for long periods of time. It was a pleasure to have in class. Excited to see him debate again. Also receiving a certificate of excellence is Iris, who, the improvement in her case, she's giving just really fantastic speeches. She's a little older in this group, but she's just an A+ debater. I really hope she continues with debate because she's got a real talent for it.
Paul, sorry to interrupt, but my mom said the link wasn't working to get into the broadcast.
Okay. Well, that is bad. All right, stand by just one moment.
Yeah, it looks like there's actually no attendees.
Yeah, I was seeing that too. Kevin, can you look into that? And if we have to start over, we'll start over, but I'm just going to continue as if they're going to get the recording. Up next is Matthew. Matthew did a great job of engaging the class, talking with other students, sharing his ideas. In addition, he wrote very, very sophisticated arguments, put a lot of work into his argumentation, and really improved his public speaking a lot. Followed by that is Nandini. Nandini, she doubled her speech time every time we talked to her. So she did a lot of revising and editing and just a lot of improvement coming from Nandini. So I'm excited to see what the final product is. Sophia, really great to have in class, always has the best questions, always has a really great contributions to the class. Started a fight with Kevin on talking about defunding the police, which led to a great conversation in the class that we did for about 20 minutes, where everyone got to participate. And Sophia definitely started that going off. So we appreciated her for contributing to great conversations and having really good work on the debate side of things. So,
Hey, Paul. So how do I give them the link? I have the link. How do I send that out to parents?
let's try and put that on the classroom page. Want to just put that on the classroom page?
Okay, and the parents will be able to see that?
Yeah. You can start. Oh, and you can put it in the chat, and the students can try and get it to their parents as well.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I just sent that out. If you guys go ahead and send that to your parents, that should work for them. And then they can also check the classroom page.
You're like recording this though, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll be able to see that as well.
Okay.
Anything that's already happened.
And we might start over.
So what it seems like is, for some reason, it wasn't sent out, I guess. Did you guys get the link or no? So the parents never got the link. I'm echoing.
Well, that's peculiar.
Yeah.
I went out of my way to like create the room just so I could create a link and share it.
They said that link does the same exact thing. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No.
All right, time to go to higher ups. All right, so I just posted a link. Is it the same link?
I don't think so.
No, this is a different one. Can we try this one? Where did you get yours, Kevin?
I just got mine from the spreadsheet.
Okay. Let's try this link because this is different and this is straight from the website. It looks like the link might have changed. Yeah, so folks could send this link to their parents. Let's see if that gets them in here.
Did you say that it was also on the website?
That one is not on the website. That one's only in the chat. Did you want me to post it somewhere else?
That would be ideal. I just don't know how to send. I can't send it to them straight from the computer.
So like I can throw it on the classroom page.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
We appear to have people joining.
Yeah, we do. That's good.
Is this is being recorded, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So for folks joining us, and right. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. I'm going to do a quick recap of everything that we've said already, but this is the class that we've had, and it was just really great working with all of these students. In an earlier version on the recording, you're going to get this section here twice, because I already went through everyone and said nice things about them, but we're going to do a sped up version of that now. But I will go through folks and give them their awards again. So, receiving a certificate of excellence is Aliza, as well as Anushka, as well as Elise, as well as Henry, Iris, Matthew, Nandini, and Sophia. So I'm hoping that everyone had a great experience this week. I'm hoping that parents and students were both hearing good things about what was going on in our camps. But please jump onto those parent surveys and let us know how you think we did. And I will let you know, this is not a normal survey, whereas what you say in this survey drastically changes the way camps look in the future. Having worked at Capitol Debate for 5 years, I can say based almost entirely on these parent surveys, the curriculum, the structure, the way camps look has all adapted based on what we read in these parent surveys. And that goes for students as well. Students, if you could please jump onto that student survey and leave Kevin and I a 5-star review. or you could be honest, whatever. We would really appreciate it. So coupon code, if you're thinking about signing up for another camp, is $50 off right now, and that code is NEXTClass2020. To give you an idea, some of the things that we do during the school year, or not during the school year, during the summers, is we have camps based on legal communication, business communication, interpersonal, and STEM. We're really hoping to be back in the real world next year doing some IRL events, IRL summer camps. And I can say that if this is their first summer camp with Capital Debate, I was very impressed with how Capital Debate was able to put it together online, but I'm still going to strongly suggest trying to go to a real one if they open up next year. It is a fantastic experience. I've enjoyed it for 4 years, being able to work with students at various awesome college campuses around the country. In addition, some things you might want to consider with Capital Debate moving forward is Debate 301 or our club league. So in either of these, students will have the opportunity not only to learn how to debate like we did this week, but this is where it becomes competitive. They actually try and win tournaments and compete with one another in debate. Whereas this was mostly instructional, the next step from here is going to be competitive debate. And something to keep in mind there, I know a lot of schools, and we got folks from all over the country, but a lot of schools are having hard times with their debate teams. They're collapsing programs, they're combining programs, they're ending programs, and debates being affected by that too. If you're in a district that doesn't offer debate to students, or it has to cut back on debate a lot for the upcoming school year, Capital Debate does have some programs that can help fill in those gaps. So, oh, and here's just more information about that debate league that they can join. And there are tournaments this year. They're all going to be online, so nothing to get canceled there. We've set up for the COVID age, and if you can sign up before August 14th, you will save $100 on joining this club league. So yeah, go check out, see what their schools are offering, and if it's not up to par, we would love to stand in for you. So lastly, if you just have any questions, feel free to keep in touch. If you have, like if you're trying to get this recording and it doesn't send to you for some reason or something like that, team@Capital Debate is the email you're going to email, and that number is good to call. But if, say, one of the students ends up going and winning a tournament at their at their school league in school, I think Kevin or I would love to hear about that as well too. So feel free to reach out to us at our Capital emails to let us know about any debate success you may have had. So with that said, I'm going to end my presentation. And we are going to have a demonstration debate. We're going to give you just a taste of what we do in class. So typically our debates happen in 3 rounds. We do an introduction, a refutation, and then we summarize. To make things a little bit shorter, rather than leaving at 5, we can hopefully leave around, we'll get it done in a couple hours as opposed to 3. We've cut out the ending and we've shortened a cross-examination period a little bit too, just to give you an idea of what a debate looks like. So up first is going to be Eliza and Iris. So could everyone else please turn off those cameras? All right. So Iris, what was your favorite part of this week? Favorite part of camp?
Do I have to have a favorite? Can it be all of it?
I mean, I'd like to hear that. Nothing stuck out though? I'll accept all of it.
All of it.
All right, I'll take that. Eliza, did you have a favorite part?
Playing the games was fun.
Did you have a favorite game?
They were all fun.
Okay. Cool. What about last week? Were any of them bad last week?
No.
All right. So we're going to hear a debate. During this debate, I might chime in a little bit just so everyone is aware of like what is going on. And then the debates after that, I'll be more quiet. But the first thing we're going to hear is Iris. She's going to give us your con? Oh, sorry. First, we're going to hear Eliza. She's going to give us a speech telling us why regulation of social media is good. And Iris or Eliza, what did I teach you about social media?
Well, I learned a lot about like the negative effects of it going unregulated that I didn't really know about.
Did I teach you that?
I mean like research, but yeah,
Not really, right?
kind of. You gave me
I
some,
kind of taught you. I give you what?
you gave me some stories.
I did tell some stories. The point is that everything you're about to hear is completely student generated. Like I didn't feed them arguments. I didn't send them a file of research. A lot of debate camps do that. They hire coaches like Kevin and I to be like essentially write their debate cases so that they can read winning debate cases. That's not how we do things here. They wrote all of their arguments, and all these ideas are original to the students. And some really cool ideas came out. So that's something to note. But all right, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to leave Eliza to tell you about social media, and that'll be followed immediately by Iris asking her questions about her case.
Okay, so government regulation on social media can save lives. This regulation would implement fact-checking on influential platforms and stop overlooked bullying, cyberbullying. Lives have been put at stake because of this lack of regulation, and they have in the past, and they have the strong potential to continue to do so. Government regulations on social media will implement fact-checking on influential platforms, as I said, and this will save social media users from misinformation and prevent them from acting upon it in ways that could potentially cause physical harm. At a coronavirus briefing, President Trump encouraged the idea of ingesting bleach as a home remedy to fight coronavirus. The FDA says that drinking bleach or products similar to it can cause serious and potentially life-threatening side effects. Health blogs also inform readers to contact poison control immediately after ingesting bleach. After that statement in suggesting the injections of disinfectants, areas around the country reported a rise in poison control center calls. 2 men in Georgia were found following Trump's advice, one of them consuming 16 ounces of bleach in the hospital for 24 hours, and the other ingesting pine sol, a chemical, along with other liquids. In a Pew Research survey, 88% of many respondents said fake news is a source of at least some confusion. News coming from influential platforms that is left unchecked is easily spread and in some cases can cause physical harm. In the same survey, 23% of those respondents admitted to sharing fake news. And as we see from Trump's segment on ingesting bleach, physical harm is possible through the sharing of this fake news. Although misinformation on social media may target those who are less informed on certain subjects, anybody can be subjected or exposed to sharing false information. As we've seen in the past and expect to see in the future, misinformation is easy to act on in ways that can cause physical harm, sometimes even putting one's life at risk. Cyberbullying is also way too common through social media. Our society is failing to protect our youth while we continue to allow cyberbullying to go unchecked. Hannah Smith, a 14-year-old, hanged herself in her bedroom on August 3rd a few years ago. In the weeks leading up to her death, Smith had been subjected to cruel taunts and insults about her weight through social media platforms, and she killed herself because of it. Bullies encouraged her to drink bleach and cut herself. Following the suicide, Hannah's older sister received abusive messages through social media, as well as her father, blaming them for the loss of her sister and his daughter. This is not the only case in which cyberbullying going unchecked has left students and kids and so many others from being subject to suicidal thoughts or mental effects, which can further lead to physical harm. In a safety net report, almost half of 11 to 25-year-olds experience threatening or nasty social media messages. 2/3 said they would not tell their parents if something upsetting happened online, and most of the respondents thought that there was a lack of consequences for people who engage in bullying online as opposed to offline. The heavier users of social media and the respondents were more likely to have low well-being symptoms of anxiety and depression. Anybody on social media or in contact with those who are subject to cyberbullying through unchecked social media platforms. As we have seen in the past and what has the strong potential to continue to happen, cyberbullying through social media can have serious mental effects on users, sometimes putting their lives at stake. Government regulation on social media does more good than harm, and implementing fact-checking and cyberbullying prevention systems through the use of government regulation can save lives and prevent people from physical damage and mental damage.
Questions?
How do you propose the government is going to regulate cyberbullying?
I think that the first step to this would be to implement consequences to cyberbullying, such as confiscation of certain social media platforms for certain amounts of times. But as time goes on, I think that the government would have to figure out more steps to that. I think acknowledging it would be the first step.
So you said that they would be restricted from social media for a certain amount of time, but based on what? Would it be based on posts or private messages that they've sent or people reporting them? How would that be decided?
Yes, so obviously I don't have like a set plan for what the government would do, but once the government is able to acknowledge and see cyberbullying happening through social media platforms, they can then use that information, which is information they don't already have, to act on it and create more consequences based on what they think is right. It's up to the government, really, but they have to acknowledge it first.
Yeah. All right. Now, a speech that is not going to engage with the leaves at all. This is a pre-made speech from Iris that is against the resolution.
We are living in a time where everything is different. We can't go to school, hang out with friends, eat at restaurants. The only thing that's the same right now is social media and the fervor with which we use it. Now, people are trying to take that away from us too, by implementing government regulations on social media. These regulations would not do more good than harm, because they would restrict free speech and implement a government bias on all social media platforms. Government regulation will restrict freedom of speech. By controlling what is posted and what is said on social media, it has a chilling effect on all platforms, restricting what we're allowed to say and how we're allowed to say it, which goes against the First Amendment. Additionally, these regulations will make it much harder to use social media as the creative outlet that so many people use it for, by controlling what is posted, how it is posted, and what artists and other creators can say. In India, which is a democracy like ours that also has a freedom of speech amendment in theory, journalists have been arrested for commenting on a sculpture garden in a tweet, which is an opinion that everybody is allowed to have. And yet still, they were punished for it. Another one was jailed for comments that were deemed derogatory about the chief of state. And while those are political opinions, it is still everybody's right to express themselves and express what they think is important and true. Additionally, India has banned TikTok, which is a huge creative outlet for the nearly 800 million active users. This lowers the quality of life drastically and makes it harder to be creative and to self-actualize. We can also see that America has already followed suit, with Trump trying to ban TikTok as we speak. This is only one example. These are only a couple of the examples of how government regulations will result in a lower quality of life, less creativity, and even false arrests, and in some extreme cases, death, with the government having no fear of public retribution. Government regulations will also create a government bias on all social media platforms. If the government can take down posts or flag users, they can control exactly what is published and what the masses are told and how they are informed. This will lead to a situation where the government can only publish news stories that help them and view them in a positive light. Imagine if Trump had control of social media during the Black Lives Matter protests. These were protests that were spread largely over social media, circulating over Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I am sure that if he was able to, he would have shut down these posts and these protests before they could even begin, making it harder to express ourselves and what we believe our government has to do. Additionally, Trump has already been arresting protesters and throwing them in unmarked vans at these gatherings. If he had access to social media, you could be arrested for posting about the protests on your story or for liking a Facebook post by an alt-left group. If you vote pro on this, we are signing on to live in a world that's eerily like the book 1984, in which not only present and current events are controlled, but history is rewritten to view the government in a positive light. Vote neg on government regulations of social media to allow creativity to flourish, to keep your right to free speech, and to keep social media bipartisan, therefore preserving our democracy. Thank you.
Questions?
When you say that social media has been a constant throughout this COVID crisis and that by regulating social media, that would take this away from us, what makes you think that the government would regulate certain parts of social media that would make it seem like social media is no longer a connecting value between us?
Well, Trump is already trying to ban TikTok, and I think that's a great example of how this is a platform that's beloved by so many people and so many people use as a creative outlet, and it's already being shut down and stopped for no real reason.
Okay, you say that it would regulate things that are beneficial to society, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, but why, although it would not be, well, it makes you think that Trump would be the one saying who and what is and what's not regulated. Oh.
Well, do I come to answer?
So now this is an abridged version. They usually would have had more time for questions, but now we're gonna take a minute and they're gonna prepare refutations. They listen to each other's speeches. Now they're gonna think about what they want to say about each other's ideas. And Eliza.
Okay, so you said that there would be a government bias if social media were to be regulated by the government. However, there's no proof of this happening as the government does not yet regulate social media. And you do mention many of Trump's views on certain ideas that are portrayed through social media platforms. However, Trump would not be in control specifically of regulating social media. It would rather be a collective effort of jobs to regulate these platforms. You also say that regulating social media is a violation of the First Amendment. However, it is not preventing free speech, but rather regulating harmful speech. It would prevent, you say it would prevent free speech, but by regulating speech, you're saying that cyberbullying is free speech, or misinformation through very influential platforms, even the president's own platforms, is free speech. However, it is not. It would only regulate things that are not beneficial to society, but not even not beneficial, rather bad for society. And while you say that this is taking away something that has been a constant through this COVID crisis, we have to understand that that is not as important as preventing suicides from cyberbullying or preventing harmful actions being taken off of misinformation, especially from influential platforms. And while this might not solve every problem, it is definitely progress. Yeah. Do I have more time?
Yeah.
Okay. You also say that it would regulate things that the government does not agree with, especially the party in control. You might say like Black Lives Matter protests being shared would be regulated. However, it is not the government's job to regulate things that could be beneficial to some people in society. It is only their job to regulate things that can harm people in our society. That's it, right?
I don't know.
Well, I saw your like hands like counting down, so.
I was just letting you know you had a minute left.
Oh, okay. So
All
should
right.
Oh, okay.
This is what happens when you don't have good conclusions. I just sit here confused, not knowing if you're done or not. You got to conclude these speeches, Eliza. But that's all right. Let's move on. We're going to hear the same thing from Iris now.
Eliza claimed that government regulations on social media would be able to help with the spread of false information. I do not think this is true, though, because in many cases, the government is the one spreading the information. She used the example of people drinking bleach and therefore dying. But Trump, the leader of our government, is the one spreading this idea in the first place. If he and his party had control of government regulations and fact checking, they would not fact check the things that are actually false, only the things that actually go against their own opinions and their own governing. This is an example of how fact checking won't actually work. Instead, it'll just become even more of a bias on all platforms. Additionally, Eliza said the government regulations will help with cyberbullying, but she has no plan for how that would take place. Would it be censoring words and posts? If so, how could IA ever figure that out? Would people have to comb through every single post? How would that work? How could you ever look at everything? Besides, it would be completely biased towards the people programming it and towards the people deciding, which is unfair and again, government bias. Not only that, if it's not about posts, will people be going through and reading all private messages? How is that going to work, and how can we do that while still protecting our privacy? Most big social media companies like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, which she mentioned, the big influential companies, already have systems where you can flag posts and get them taken down. I don't think that having government regulation be more efficient in blocking posts and taking down users than that system already is. The same is true with fact checking. The companies themselves are already doing it, taking down Trump's posts and Twitter is fact checking him and putting the correct information. I think that the fact that the social media companies are having to fact check the government makes it very clear that the government should not be fact checking the social media companies. She says that if government regulations go through, deaths from suicide will decrease and from false information will decrease. But that is simply not true. Fact checking will not work with government regulations, and cyberbullying can't be stopped by some AI program. On the other hand, if you vote neg, you're saving yourselves from a totalitarian government in which you have no freedom of speech, and soon all of the rest of your rights will be taken away as well. Vote neg because neither fact checking nor cyberbullying can be helped by government regulations, whereas regulations will immediately take away our free speech and make social media extremely biased. Thank you.
All right, and that concludes our first debate. Thank you very much, Iris and Eliza. Favorite parts there was I liked Iris's use of today's news. I coached her a little bit on that, but that was a great way of incorporating like Trump's executive order of this morning. So yeah, you get a news update along with your debate today. So that's really great. And good job, Eliza. Didn't mean to give you a hard time. I thought you were timing yourself. That's right. No, that was still good refutation. Sorry, we couldn't get better time management on that. All right. So if we could bring up our next debaters is Sophia and Matthew. All right. So Matthew, what was your favorite part of summer camp?
So at first I wasn't really good at public speaking, but when we did all these debates and practiced them in class, I feel like that was probably my favorite part, like getting to learn more about public speaking, learning more about the setting up of debates.
Cool. I really think you got a lot better too. Sophia, did you have a favorite part?
I really enjoyed, debating quite a bit, and I feel like my self-confidence while speaking in front of other people has become a lot better. So I really enjoyed that, and I also liked the games we played. So
Cool. Did you have a favorite game?
I like the Olympics. I think.
The Olympics. Olympics.
Mhm.
All right. So what? And Matthew, you're pro, right?
Yes.
All right. So I will jump off the screen, and Matthew, start whenever you're ready.
Okay. 15 adults have been hospitalized after drinking methanol-contaminated hand sanitizer, 4 have died. Government regulation of social media does more good than harm. My first argument is the government should regulate social media because otherwise false information can be spread throughout the platforms, especially during coronavirus. False information is happening during the coronavirus. People are reading articles and listening to important people talk, which could be telling them the wrong information about the virus and telling them the wrong precautions to take. Fake news concerning health on social media represents a risk to global health. The WHO warned in February 2020 that the COVID-19 outbreak has been accompanied by a massive infodemic, or an overabundance of information, some of which was accurate and some of which was not, which made it difficult for people to find reliable sources and trustworthy information when they needed it. And the consequences of disinformation overload are the spread of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, and racism on a scale not seen in previous epidemics such as SARS, MERS, and Zika. Therefore, the WHO is dedicating tremendous efforts aimed at providing evidence-based information and advice to the population. The MIT Technology Review highlights that social media is being used to spread false news and hate messages. People can receive false information about the precautions to take during the coronavirus, which could lead to them getting sick, or on a harsher scale, ultimately causing them to die. My second argument is that the government should regulate social media in order to prevent pro-terrorism organizations and groups from promoting themselves. Terrorism is a horrible thing, and for it to be promoted through social media makes it even a worse problem in society. Social media can be used in many different ways. Most people use it to communicate with friends and family. However, terrorists are using it to promote their groups. With the government regulations, it will be harder for them to pull off attacks. ISIS's strategic use of social media demonstrates the resourcefulness of the terrorist common insurgent organization, which mobilized an estimated 40,000 foreign nationals from 110 countries to join the group. Increasing internet access in both Africa and the Middle East means that ISIS also has a new pool of potential supporters who, through social media, could be recruited to join its efforts to regain control of lost territory. Given the threats ISIS's online propaganda poses to regional and international security, policymakers and analysts may need a better understanding of the intentions of the group in the information and communication technologies domain. ISIS's use of social media is not new or unique. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has used social media and online propaganda for more than a decade, launching its English-language digital magazine, which inspired the Boston Marathon bombers in 2010. Uneducated people who have not used social media could sign up for these groups that could put them in harm's way. If they do sign up, then that would put them in groups that someone most likely would not want to be a part of. Even if someone didn't accidentally join the group, more people joining the groups would not be good for the world. It took 4 people to take over a plane in 9/11. So 1, 2, or even 4 joining the group, let alone 40,000, could and will be detrimental to a city, state, country, or the world. With government regulations, these types of terrorism propaganda will be less likely to exist. Thank you.
And question.
Okay, so one of your claims was that the government will help regulate false informations. But how will the government regulate false social media content, and how will the government remain unbiased?
Well, the government would remain unbiased through Congress. So, governments would go through the coronavirus related topics, and through Congress they could see which ones were real or fake, and also they could work with the CDC in knowing which coronavirus precautions should be taken and which should not be.
And you talk about how the government regulations would help stop terrorism, but how does the government know what is a terrorist organization, and how do they know that they just won't make another account?
Well, a terrorism organization obviously wants to inflict harm on the world, and they don't want that information out there on social media. So with regulating it, they could block those accounts and not allow them to make new accounts.
And Sophia.
As a teenager in this day and age, I use technology almost every day, whether it be for school or for entertainment. I believe if the government regulated social media, it would restrict the use of free speech and harm the economy. Social media is a place where everyone can voice their opinion. If the government controlled social media, protests against the government could be curbed. Any anti-government or anti-establishment voices wouldn't be heard. This would lead to less awareness, more biases, and the societal and cultural values at large may be put in jeopardy. The government could censor any bad publicity, keeping the public uninformed. A government leader who is abusing his or her power, for example, can ban the release of videos and online content proving his or her illegal activities. Politicians or regulating authorities may favor some brands or companies over others. They may proliferate certain ideologies over others. Religious and cultural intolerance may be facilitated. Places like Iran allow the use of capital punishment if you insult government leaders, and in Thailand, you can be incarcerated for up to 15 years. China has a lack of freedom of speech. Following the death of Dr. whistleblower Li Wenliang, whose early warnings were ignored and repressed by authorities, many believe that the outbreak could have been better contained if it weren't for the repression of free speech in China. Freedom of speech is a fundamental human right, and as we've seen with the countries above, lack of freedom of speech can lead to jail time, capital punishment, and death. Secondly, the economy seems to be important to the US government. If the United States is so critical about the economy, it is imperative to note how much enforcing regulations could hurt the economy. There are businesses that rely on the internet to advertise their services and products. Banning their websites to be accessed by consumers of the legal age can harm the sales and profits of these companies. If censorship is implemented, these businesses will not be able to reach their global market. The internet sector makes more than construction and computer products combined. Statistically speaking, 82% of organizations currently use social media in order to successfully recruit passive job candidates. And 73% of millennials found their last position through a social media platform. There are thousands of influencers on social media. Most are not extremely popular, and social media is how they make ends meet. YouTubers' profits come from AdSense and sponsorships. If their content is deemed inappropriate, it could be demonetized, meaning all the money made from the video is lost. If the government doesn't approve of the content being made, small YouTubers could go from making ends meet to poverty fairly easily. Regulating social media would end in thousands of jobs being destroyed. 6% of the country's profits come from social media, which doesn't seem like much, but it's $228 billion. If the government regulates social media, it could lead to a loss of jobs and a loss of money. Thus, I believe that the government shouldn't regulate social media. As expressed above, if the government controlled social media, it would hurt the economy and impose on free speech. Vote no to government regulations for a stable economy and to keep your voices heard. Thank you.
Questions?
Okay. So you think that the TikTok should not be banned, right?
Yes, I don't think TikTok should be banned.
What do you think about the situation in India and TikTok being banned? Because they are also a democracy.
They are a democracy, and they claim that freedom of speech is a personal value of theirs. But even though people, as Ira said before, people are being punished because of expressing how they feel. And TikTok is a way for people to express their creativity and have a good time. And so, no, I don't think TikTok should be banned in either India or the US.
Okay, and how do you think that the China whistleblower's death has anything to do with government regulations on social media?
I do think that it has something to do with government regulations on social media, because if we have a lack of freedom of speech, like China, as the Dr. Whistleblower said, okay.
I have a minute now, right?
Yep.
Yep, take a minute to prepare. All right, Matthew.
All right. So first, I'm gonna refute her arguments. Then I'm gonna enforce my arguments again. So first, she said that there should be a ban on, or that there should not be a ban on TikTok, and that India shouldn't have banned TikTok. But so first, in 2017, China passed a law that said that all China's companies can give their information that they have on that app to the Chinese government. And by using that app, we're also giving money to China. So first thing, India is at a war with China, and when people use the app, they are giving money and information to their government. So that's why India, I think, banned TikTok in the first place. But also, they did it out of safety because the information could have been, because India's information could have been shared with China. And they're just giving money to them, which they don't want to do it when they're in a war. And by putting a ban on TikTok, I think President Trump is saying that he doesn't want to take that risk of getting into that, of giving more money and giving more information to the Chinese government, because more information for the Chinese government isn't going to be a good thing for the country. Also, she said that the government would be biased, and I disagree with that, because I feel like with Congress in place, most of the things that the president has to do, he has to run through Congress, and with those regulations, that's something that the Congress also has to work with. And something with the regulations, like on the coronavirus and that false information, he has to work with the CDC and other disease control organizations that could help him and know like which is false information and which is true information. Also, in an example of a country that banned or that's regulating social media and regulating terrorism, the European Union says that the social media platforms will face fines if they do not delete extremist content within an hour. So that's a way that governments could regulate social media and regulate social media and put warnings under the terrorism sites and the terrorism recruitment information, saying that this is a terrorism organization, and they should just ban them from their social media platforms. Also, in my coronavirus false information argument, I said that the impact of that is that people could die. False information out on the web about coronavirus can lead someone to doing something that could ultimately kill them. And her argument, she said that free speech and that it could just give people less freedoms. However, I think that people dying is a worse situation than people losing their freedom.
All right, then the same from Sophia.
I think fake news is a huge societal problem. Yet when the President of the United States is a main source of fake news on a daily basis, and when Breitbart News now gets more viewers than the New York Times, it's hard to believe that regulating social media companies would do anything to stop fake news. In addition, Twitter has instituted its own regulatory policies that help cite and catch fake news. Facebook has resisted some of these internal changes, leading to boycotts from over 1,000 companies. Given my previous arguments about the regulatory failure of our government to believe that, I believe that the private sector will provide the incentive for companies to change without the need of the government to regulate social media. Now on to his argument about terrorists. Social media sites like Facebook and Twitter have seen that there are problems with terrorism and have instituted their own regulations. And even if terrorists were on mainstream social media sites before, they have now moved on to dark sites such as 4chan. So regulating popular social media sites would do absolutely nothing to stop terrorism. I believe if the government regulated social media, it would lead to a harmed economy and violate our right to free speech. Given my arguments above, I don't believe that Matthew's arguments will go into effect as quickly as mine. I believe if government regulations were to take place, it could set us on a China-like totalitarian path and a collapsing digital economy. Would you rather have a small online community of terrorists or a totalitarian government? Given the financial crisis of 2008, in which big banks created complex financial products that led to a worldwide recession, the government intervened and passed the Dodd-Frank Financial Regulation Bill. 10 years later, the banks are even bigger than they were before the crisis. So if the government failed to regulate the banks, what makes you think that the government will do any better with social media regulations? The risk we would take could lead to a loss of market share and jobs in the US and threaten our worldwide leadership role in technology. Vote no to government regulations and keep our digital economy vibrant and help keep democracy alive. Thank you.
All right. And that concludes our second debate. Notice in that last speech, Sophia really engaged in something we call weighing. She just granted Matthew's arguments and then said, well, whose arguments are bigger? Whose arguments are more important? That's something we would usually see in the third speeches, but she incorporated it into this speech because she knew we weren't going to get that third speech. So she's going for the W with the time constraints we gave her. But yeah, that was really well done. So let's bring up Nandini and Henry. All right, Henry, when's your birthday?
My birthday is on September 13th.
Oh, September 13th. Both weeks you told me it was coming up, but it's not that coming up.
Not a bit away,
Thought it was
like a month.
closer. You're really looking forward to it, though, I can tell.
Yes.
All right. Nandini, what was your favorite part of camp?
I really liked playing Scribblio and the debate practices.
I really liked when you were drawing for Scribblio. You draw nicely. I draw poorly.
Thank you.
Henry, what was your favorite part?
I agree with Nandini. I really liked the games, but I also really liked like the speech practices, like the tongue twisters. I'm not sure if we did that this one or last time, and also the Olympics or the Olympics.
All right. So weird that's a favorite of people's. The Olympics, just so parents are aware, that's a game where you just start talking, and as soon as you throw out an or an you're done. You're out of the competition. So it's weird that they're really enjoying this game. It doesn't sound fun when you describe it. I guess you just have to do it. All right, but I'm glad you enjoyed that. So let's have a debate. Nandini, you're free to start when you want. I'm getting off the screen.
In 2016, 2 out of 3 adults said that their social media accounts had been hacked. With increased use of social media during COVID-19, it is even more essential to keep social media safe and secure. Government regulation of social media will create safe, secure accounts, remove fake news links, and protect people from addiction to social media. My first argument is about hacking. Hackers can use important information from your social media accounts against you, such as your credit card and social security numbers. They can use this information to steal money from your bank account or commit crimes in your name. Recently, a group of hackers got into influential Twitter accounts and used the information there to steal over $110,000 worth of Bitcoin. So even if you don't have anything important on your social media accounts, hackers can still access your other accounts. Government regulation of social media will help protect against hackers because they have more resources than normal social media platforms. My second point is fake news or misinformation, which can be deadly and harmful. Fake news can cause people to believe things that aren't true or make them do something that could be harmful to them. In 2016, a fake news link called Pizzagate circulated, which promoted a fake news link and eventually led to someone sending death threats and even shooting a gun inside a pizza store. In the 2016 election, 90% of adults reported seeing fake news links. If we have the government regulating social media, they can use their power to remove fake news links, which will be very beneficial. Finally, my third point is social media addiction. Social media platforms are constantly trying to get more people to use their accounts for longer periods of time. Erin, a blogger, said that one day she was so addicted to social media she couldn't go 5 minutes without checking her phone. If the government is in charge of social media, their main purpose would not be to get more users or to get people to use social media for long periods of time. Instead, they would be more focused on problems such as hacking, cyberbullying, or fake news links. Social media addiction leads to less productivity and creativity. Government regulation of social media is essential for people to be able to trust what they read and feel comfortable using social media without fear. Vote Pro to keep private information secure, save lives, and save time and creativity.
Questions?
Yes. So, you said there's like 2 out of 3 adults have been hacked on social media. Uh, are you sure this is accurate? Or could I get a source for this?
Well, I read it on an online website from a university, but it was in 2018, so some things could have changed from it.
And how are you proposing direct government regulation where the government actually censors it? Or are they going to create rules for the companies to say you must censor this X, Y, and Z?
The government can create a group of people who'll go through and then just remove fake news links, and it'll be supervised by the government, but they wouldn't be doing it actually.
And Pizzagate resulted in 1 death. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And with addiction, how would you propose the government try and fix it?
The government would spend less money trying to get more people to join the social media platforms and instead focus on problems such as hacking and cyberbullying, which will in turn make people use social media more healthily.
That's all the questions I have.
Forgot to start my timer. Henry?
Yep. I'm going to set my timer as well. I negate resolved government regulation of social media does more good than harm. My first contention is that government regulation of social media would limit free speech. The government can use social media to silence dissent. Having a free and independent press is essential to a democracy. A free press allows the public to form their own opinions on events as opposed to those pushed on by their government, and to voice their fears without fear of persecution. The government would be able to make laws about how much the media censors and be able to influence what the press can say. In India, the biggest democratic republic state population-wise in the world, the constitution protects freedom of speech. However, recently as March 6, 2020, the Indian Broadcasting Service cut off an Indian news channel for 48 hours because they had covered the mob attacks on Muslims in New Delhi that flared into border arrest in a way that seems critical towards the Delhi police and the RSS. In China, during the start of the coronavirus pandemic, a scientist by the name of Li Wenliang told about the incoming dangers of coronavirus. He was ignored and was investigated by the police for spreading rumors and was told to stop making false comments. If the Chinese government had allowed him to speak, or at least provided a platform with freedom of speech, the virus would not have made it out of China, and thousands of lives would have not have been needlessly lost. If the government can regulate social media, then the voice of the people here will be at stake. The government would be able to control the media and turn the country into a police state where the only correct opinion is the government's opinion. The citizens would be at the complete mercy of the government. Millions of people could die and suffer at the hands of the government with no ways to speak out. My second contention is that social media platforms will fix themselves. Social media companies have a goal more closely aligned with the people. The ultimate goal of the companies is to make as much money as efficiently as they can. If the companies don't regulate social media themselves to stop child exploitation, cyberbullying, copyright, and etc., then the environment of the platform would be absolutely horrendous, and nobody would want to use it or invest in the company itself. Therefore, the company would want to make the environment of the state as safe as it can be. Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, said it best. If we don't find scalable solutions to the problems we are seeing, we will lose our business. If the regulations are too severe, then they'll lose customers. And if they aren't severe enough, they'll also lose customers. This way, it is in the hands of the people to control what they want to be able to say and how much they want to balance out with safety. Several weeks ago, Donald Trump Jr.'s account got temporarily banned on Twitter for spreading misinformation about COVID-19. This isn't the work of the government, but of the company. If the government is fact-checking the government, if the government is fact-checking the media, who is fact-checking the government? The goals of the government concerning social media aren't aligned with the people. A politician's main job is to win and keep the vote. To win the vote, they promise things to different sections of the voting population. They want to influence the media to appeal to everyone. They would want to try and restrict social media platforms that speak out against them. They would want to oppress them to make sure that their ideas do not spread against them. They don't suffer if the platform is in a terrible state or is too restrictive, other than the voters. In fact, it would be almost beneficial to them, as now they can control the public opinion, or at least a perception of public opinion. The companies running the social media platform do have a stake in the matter. They do suffer if the platform is not just right. If the government regulates social media, they'll be able to influence the public opinion, which is the only thing that prevents governments from turning tyrannical. To involve the government when it simply isn't needed is giving power needlessly away to oppress the voice of freedom, and it will endanger the citizens of all democracies. Thus, I negate the resolution. And I'm open for a cross-ex.
You said that companies can remove fake news links by themselves, but wouldn't it be better for the government to use its resources to help?
I do not believe so. The government has a lot of things on its agenda currently, such as the coronavirus pandemic. They need to fund the schools. They need to fund all of, like, the checks and stuff for the economy to, like, help people out. Right now, it's simply not a good time. Besides that, companies, they make money on their own. Shouldn't they be the ones who are supporting, like, fact checkers? They do have a team of fact checkers who are around the clock making sure that there isn't fake news, and that, like, fake information such as the ones Donald Trump Jr. was posting, his account was temporarily banned, and the thing was completely taken off of Twitter, and yeah.
Take a minute and prepare some refutation. All right, Nandini.
Government regulation of social media does more good than harm. With government regulation of social media, we can better control our internet screen time, prevent hacking, and trust what we read. It's unlikely that the government will limit our freedom of speech because it currently controls news channels such as NPR, PBS, which are not overly politically biased. If the government-run programs aren't like this, it's really unlikely for social media run by the government to be like this as well. Also, companies can do some things to keep social media safe and reliable, but it's not as much as the government can do. And the government will have a much better chance of protecting against hackers and removing fake news sites. Additionally, hacking is a very current problem. While the chance that our government could someday end up limiting our freedom of speech and censoring important information is much less probable. Henry also said that in India, someone was arrested, a news channel was shut down for saying something that the government didn't like. However, Indian YouTube channels are some of the most popular on YouTube, and the government does not censor that information. The probability of the government controlling our freedom of speech is much less likely than the probability that the government will be able to help with problems such as hacking and fake news, which can be deadly. Vote Pro to save lives, keep information secure, and control your screen time.
And Henry.
Okay, so I'm gonna first go over my refutations for her opener speech, and then I'm gonna rebuttal her refutations. Okay, so governments. Nandini said that the government, in order to regulate, they would give more money for cyber protection to the companies and the social media website. Well, I disagree that this will be beneficial. So far, the government, as I stated in my previous cross-ex, the government is in like dire need of money right now. The funds necessary, like Minnesota's in ruins from the rioters, and they're asking for money. The money that the government has to provide for them, money that is like for the welfare checks right now for all the people during the coronavirus pandemic who cannot open up simply because the government told them not to save the lives of the people from coronavirus. Because of this, they cannot afford to spend any more money giving to big major companies that already have the means to protect themselves. The companies themselves, they have to pay for the best. They already do pay for the best in system security. And the only other way like a hacker could get in is through accounts. The accounts, if the government's regulating an accounts, that is letting the government know your information for your password and your username, allowing the government to get into your stuff, looking through that. That's a clear violation of privacy. With the fake news thing, there was only like one case so far that was reported. She was talking about Pizzagate. Nandini talked about Pizzagate and how that affected one person. I do not believe that is a big enough of an impact, and that was just a one-off case where some things slipped through the cracks. And on top of that, the social media companies, they're already trying to do their best. If their site is not perfect, if their site is not the best at what it does, their site will not survive. They will not have enough income. They will not be able to improve anything, and the whole thing will fall down. Therefore, it is in their best interest to help help the people and make their site as free as it can be while protecting the safety. With the addiction, I think you dropped that argument, but I'm gonna still go over it. I do not see how a government could limit the addiction of people to social media. The only way I could see this being utilized is actually to harm social media websites that are biased or leaning to the left or to the right. The government could use their clause to stop addiction, to make the site less safe, make it less make less people use it. So the thoughts and the ideas of the people on the sites will be oppressed. Going back to what I said, oh yes, so you can see we're weighing between a tyrannical government that can control the media and kill thousands of lives, just like in the coronavirus pandemic, versus a couple people dying, slipping through the cracks, and nothing else really. Thank you, and vote.
All right. So thank you, Henry and Nandini. Like I was saying earlier, that becomes really clear. There was this underlying internal debate throughout all of the debates that we had, but it's really clear when Henry and Nandini debate that there's this metaphor for some people see government as a parental figure, and then there's the metaphor some people just have an inherent distrust of government. Government's more like a monster, and it becomes really clear in some debates like that. So with that, I'd like to call upon our final debates for the day, and that is Elise and Anushka. All right. So Elise, your second week here, what was your favorite part of this week at summer camp?
Probably like the games.
Still the games? What, did you have a favorite game?
Yeah, Scriblio.
Did I get better at art this week?
Yeah.
I got a little bit better, right? All right, thank you, Elise. Anushka, what was your favorite part?
My favorite was the games, especially the Olympics.
The Olympics. Okay. I'm glad we did it twice this time. I've never done it twice before, but I think that's gonna stick around, I think. All right. So I'll jump off the screen and you are welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Facebook was founded in 2004 with a vision to bring the world closer together. Everyone could now express their views to family, friends, and the broader world. What started as a beautiful idea gave rise to one of the most valued companies in the world, which is now threatening the very society it promised to create. Government regulation of social media does more good than harm, and I like to argue that it's critically important. The government should regulate hate speech and fact-checking, among other things. Disinformation has taken new proportions as social media amplifies even utter falsehoods. We are living in the worst pandemic to affect the world in several generations with COVID-19. Over 700,000 people have lost their lives, with more than 116,000 deaths in the United States alone. Social media is filled with conspiracy theories and has spread so much disinformation that it's hard to undo the damage. Epidemic of this untold proportions has itself been called a hoax. Dr. Fauci as the cause for developing the virus and the simple masks that could save millions of lives has been shunned and blamed for causing the infection. People have been told if they drink bleach, they could kill the virus. When people have swallowed this suggestion, they died. Lives were lost because their belief in something they heard online. An online survey showed that people were using bleach in dangerous ways. With the world's existence itself at stake, can we still question the need for regulations of stable diet of news information when there are millions of lives on the line? Can we still rely on these companies to self-regulate when their only motive is to generate profits for their owners and their shareholders? Who else but the government can regulate the social media? Spreading disinformation to take over governments by making it sound illegitimate is a time-tested technique. What has changed in this age of social media is the ease with which even a baseless theory can wreak havoc. All of us have heard of the birther movement, which questioned the birth of President Obama, even long after he produced his birth certificate. Before elections in 2016 were held, the then candidate Trump started raising doubts about voter fraud and continues to blame millions of fraudulent ballots cast without any proof. Immigrants and minorities have been labeled as criminals, which has created a hatred towards them. Targeting Mexicans, a right-wing extremist shot and killed 23 patrons at a Walmart store in El Paso, Texas, and injured just as many. Social media, rather than bringing together people and communities, it has created echo chambers where extreme ideas are propagated. This has been exploited by rogue nations like Russia to spread divisive, disparaging false messages and influence a presidential election. Social media has become a haven for trolls, cyberbullies, and predators who prey on the underage kids. Cybercrime is the fastest rising crime and will cost the world $6 trillion by the end of 2021. By 2021, a business will fall victim to ransomware every 11 seconds. The cost of a data breach will reach $150 million by the end of this year. It is the core responsibility of the government to care for its vulnerable. Surely more resources need to be invested in protecting our children from the predators, our gullible population from the internet cheats, our businesses from having information stolen. Government can do this and a lot more. The government should make the social media websites responsible for monitoring its content and levy fines when the content amount to causing materials damage to a person and a group is encountered. There is no place for hate speech on the internet. Free speech is not totally free. It has its limitations, as it should have. On the pretext of free speech, one cannot incite violence, spread hatred directed towards a group or a community. Free speech cannot be weaponized to spread lies, which can take more lives than a gun, which can tear apart more families in civil war, which can question the faith in our own democracy. As we have entered a new age of social media, our laws have to adapt, and we need government regulation, or else we would be condemned to live through chaos generated from propagation of false information, boldly referred to as ultimate facts. This is why I feel you should vote pro. The government needs to regulate facts so we can live a safe life. Thank you.
All right. Questions?
So you say that companies don't really care about our well-being, and you say that the government might, so they should control it, but what makes you think that they will care?
The government, it was made to care for the people. It was made to to serve the people in their everyday lives. So that's the purpose of government, to lead the people, its citizens, in a good way, which is not harm the economy as a whole.
You also say that social media is like a habitat for bullies and predators, but how exactly would the government defend against these predators and bullies, because there are already defense mechanisms made by the companies?
Well, they could give regulations to they could give resources to the different companies, and also there's Germany's Netztechnologie law that has made companies over 2 million users set up procedures to review complaints about content they're hosting or removing anything illegal in 24 hours, and to publish updates every 6 hours about how they're doing. The American government could learn from that and do something related to that fact.
All right, and Elise.
Okay. Sushma Swaraj, a verified Twitter user, tweeted that, "I assure you that no Indian worker rendered unemployed in Saudi Arabia will go without food. I am monitoring this on an hourly basis." She raised awareness to the issue that 10,000 Indian workers were starving. All of the attention that this tweet gathered caught the attention of the Indian government, so they donated 16 tons of food to the Indian workers. This is just one example of many lives being saved or improved by social media. We should definitely not regulate social media, as it can stop lives from being saved and stop people's mental health from getting better. It can also block one of the biggest crowdsourcing sources out there, and it will also stop people from letting them express themselves. If we were to regulate social media, many lives would be damaged due to the fact that awareness could not be raised as effectively. Many people have spread words of GoFundMes or other charity systems that have saved lives, or given people enough money to provide a vital medical treatment for a family member. This year, funding for the Australian wildfires was trending on all social media platforms. There were multiple posts on Instagram that donated $1 per share to help stifle the spread of the wildfires. If we were to try to regulate social media, many people could die that could have been saved via social media. Because if we were to regulate social media, the government can't go through every single post, and if enough people flag something, then it will eventually go down. While spreading awareness is a plus of social media, so is getting your questions answered. If you have a problem that you need help with, you can hide your identity and crowdsource for help. A woman named Deborah posted pictures of her son on Twitter as she knew something was wrong, but she didn't know what. Her followers figured it out, saving her money from diagnosing her son via doctor. Crowdsourcing can be very helpful because you can send messages to a larger number of people than you normally could, so you can get more info and more feedback. If we restrict social media, one of the world's easiest ways to crowdsource could be rendered more ineffective, possibly leading to more deaths if someone can't get diagnosed. My last point is that social media allows people to share their talents with the world. If they have no one that will listen or look at what they have made in real life, they have a chance to express themselves to people that will listen. Also, especially during COVID-19, it's a lot easier for colleges and universities to see students' works and whether or not they would like to accept them. These people getting accepted have higher chances of success and being well off because going to college gives you more opportunities. Around 3.03 billion people have social media, leaving employers a huge opportunity to see your talents, and 91% of employers are using social media to hire people with talent. If we regulate social media, less people will get into colleges and could possibly die from being homeless. Overall, we should definitely not regulate social media. If we do this, we can hurt mental health, cause deaths, and suppress people from expressing themselves and their concerns. If we regulate social media, people can die that could have been saved by raising awareness, by limiting crowdsourcing, and not getting into colleges. Thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
Oh yeah, questions. You said all the all the fundings that you said that were happening. How can you tell if they're frauds? Like if someone says they're going to fund something, but in the end they just collect all the money and use it for themselves. How do you propose to stop that?
Sorry, could you repeat that? That was slightly choppy for me.
Okay, so all the fundings could create immense fraud. How do you propose to make sure that these people who are creating fundings won't take the money for themselves and use it themselves?
I don't actually know how we could do that, but in previous cases I've looked over, many examples of those have been stopped by the government or by like the police and stuff, and the money has usually been returned.
So you agree that the government is needed to regulate the fraud?
I wouldn't say that.
That's what you said. The government was the one who caught the thing, so that's practically them regulating their frauds and the funding.
That's time. All right, take a minute to prepare your refutations. All right, and pro.
Okay, I'm gonna first start by dropping down our points for refutation. So Elise said that as I said on the question, she said that when the government regulates stuff, the funding will go away. But why would the government stop funding from the funding to help good places? Because everyone right here is acting as if the government's going to take away social media. Social media is still going to be there. Why would the government want to stop funding when that is going to help the citizens of its own citizens? And you said the government would stop self-expression. Self-expression that can be expressed in many ways that are not politically biased. So like why would the government want to regulate people just posting drawings of themselves or just like Instagram posts that are just like expressing yourself like, hey, I'm going to the beach, or hey, I'm doing this? Because if it's like this everyone's acting social media is still there. The government is just going to regulate stuff which are making the citizens in danger. And as well as the fund, like I said in the questions before, the funding's going to create fraud. And how else are people supposed to trust in fraud, trust in giving their money to the person without knowing that, oh, these people are going to take the money for themselves? You said that even though the government catches the stuff, what they're basically doing is regulating they're regulating the frauds. Even though the government can't catch everything, whatever they catch, it's good for us. Because if your money is going to when you feel your money is going towards a good cause, and then the government is there to tell you that, oh, your money is not going towards a good cause. This person's going to take it and use it for themselves. How are you supposed to know that yourselves? So government regulation has good positive effects as well as negative effects. Most people think that regulation will just cause the government to participate in stuff like fining and taxing and imprisoning, but they can also involve themselves in creating incentives like land grant and tax cuts. So instead of, if they want the funding to provide like a stronger companies, they can just like they cut the taxes a bit so that they're still getting their regulation, but at the same time they are having a positive impact on the world itself. Thank you. That's why I feel you should vote pro. Government regulation can help in good ways without taking down the whole social media.
And to close out the debate, Elise.
We should not have government regulation. You say that we should have it to stop hate on people and bullying, but social media already gives options to stop, such as blocking or reporting. Of course, it doesn't catch everything, but what else can the government do besides going through every single message, every single post, which is just not possible? You also say that pedophiles and bullies are a problem, but you can meet those just as easily outside of social media. False news is also regulated on social media, but social media has a warning, and it warns you every time there is false news. Although it's not perfect, again, the government can't do more unless they want to go through every post. Also, if we were to regulate social media, it would be biased if it was run by the government. There have been several tweets from Trump that there have been several tweets on Twitter that Trump has taken down because they attacked him. So government regulation might be affected by someone's personal feelings. Overall, you should vote neg and not have government regulation because it won't be super effective. It could be biased, and most of the things, and there's more pros than cons for not having government regulation. Thank you.
And that concludes our final round of our final debate. Thank you very much, Anushka and Elise. If I could call Kevin up to the screen.
Yes.
Hello, and Anushka and Elise, we'll call you all back up in just a minute. All right, we never really introduced ourselves, but I think this is actually a better time to do it. So I'm Coach Paul. This is Kevin. We've been working with your students, trying to get them to learn debate for a while. And I wanted to say a little bit about me. I taught in Seoul, South Korea for 2 years, taught debate teams over there. I've done work in Denver. I've also coached the University of Wyoming's debate team the last 2 years. And I can say that the folks that we are working with today, I am really excited to have brought them into the debate community. The debate community has done like a lot for me. I've traveled the world. I've had jobs because of it. I've met great friends because of it. And I'm really excited to see these people, these students wanting to be a part of that community. And so I really hope a lot of them stick with it, whether ideally through their schools, but if COVID ruins that for them, Capital Debate is here for you. Kevin, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I'm Kevin. I was the kind of assistant instructor this week, helping the kids out. I helped them actually a little bit with evidence. They did that most of themselves, but usually I would help with that. If they needed to find an article or something, I could help with that. And then also I was helping Mr. Paul just on the technical side as well. So I did debate with Capital for a number of years, and I really enjoyed it. So I would recommend, as a parent, that you actually continue, your child continues with debate. It's a really awesome thing. It helps boost confidence in the child, and then it also it just makes them a better speaker in general, and that reflects in many parts of their life, whether it be learning something in class or presenting something in class. So it really does help.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for letting us work with your students. Thank you for attending to the very end, those of you who have. I know it's kind of long to go through debates. It's for some of you, you've only done the public speaking. That was a lot shorter. This one takes a little more time. Thank you to Kevin for helping me on some of the tech stuff. I've had to learn a lot since COVID-19. I never thought I could be an online teacher. So if we could bring all the students back onto the screen. Could everyone please join me one last time? This group had a lot of girls in it too. I'm really excited to see like the debate community becoming more inclusive. Some of the best speeches and the best debaters we had in this class were the girls. All right. So if we could do me one last little favor. Again, you're always welcome to keep in touch, especially if you keep up with debate, to let me know. But if we could all just do one nice wave while I end the broadcast. All right. Thank you, everyone. So long. Enjoy the rest of your debate careers.